Mr. President, Israel said
ceasefire breaking impact?
I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. It's ridiculous. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it.
Iran can rebuild its nuclear program?
Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Hot Take Express.
This is Hot Take Express with Kent Chamberlain. I'm your host, Kent Chamberlain, and this is episode 26.5, The Iran Sitch. They can't not all the titles can be clever. Sometimes I just gotta get something out. And two other things to address real quick. Yes, I got a haircut. It happens once a year. And then it just grows out. But this time of year, having that much hair just sucks. So that's why I get it cut back. Anyway, I don't always have content for these half episodes. Like, these are meant to be the non-political ones, and politics seems to be creeping in more and more on them. And I think when politics creeps in on these, it's just going to address like the news of the day, because holy crap, the news of the day. All right, so I don't know why I go on record saying anything nice about anyone, because like they seem to just stab me immediately in the back. Laura Loomer is like another Vivek here. She's just said that she supports the strikes and against Iran, and that like if you don't support the strikes against Iran, you're not MAGA. And she had been doing a lot of good work rooting neocons out, and now this, like, I don't get it. Like, did she just turn her ideology on a dime? Was she like the deep state will sometimes do this, where they put people out in the media and like they have really good takes for a while, and that's meant to like get your trust, and then like they just turn on a dime when like the deep state needs to call in that asset, and then like they'll start having bad takes. And like, is Laura Loomer one of those? I wouldn't have guessed, but which is why I was praising her last episode. Or she just might genuinely be wrong, or that much of a Trump stan. Who knows? Like, whatever Trump does is right. My relationship with Trump the man is a lot more transactional than that, but the man is famous for nothing if not transactions, so I think he himself would be fine with it. Anyway, I cannot... There are just some things Trump does that I cannot sanction, that I cannot, like, say, I cannot find a reason to defend, or like an excuse or something. And I don't think people understand, but this is how politics is done with narcissists, and like the liberals are right about that much. Trump is a raging narcissist. But in this case, that's a good thing, because like we can use that, because narcissists can easily like be manipulated to do the will of the people if they're politicians, in a way that like more cold calculating politicians like Mitch McConnell cannot. So because like narcissists are concerned about their legacies, whereas Mitch McConnell is content to being a villain in history just so long as he gets his payout today. With narcissists, it's kind of like with the old czars. A common phrase you would hear back in Tsarist Russia was, if only the Tsar knew about this. And the idea is, you are allowed as a peasant, as a serf, or even an aristocrat, or a noble of some kind in Tsarist Russia, you are allowed to criticize the system, okay? But it's always the guy in-between's fault. If the Tsar only knew about this travesty occurring in his government, he would fix it lickety-split. And because the Tsar is one of the kindest men on earth, practically a saint, as the Orthodox Christians understand these things, and sometimes literally even, they can never be questioned. They can never be personally maligned. If something's happening on the lower levels, it's just some lower level bureaucrat that must be at fault. And if something's happening on the higher levels, where like the Tsar himself is implicated, it can only be because his advisors gave him bad advice. Not that the Tsar would ever purposely do anything against, the Russian people that he loves. So, what do I think about these Iran strikes? If only Trump knew about this, right? Okay, because you get it? Like, this is why you saw the reactions from Tucker and Steve Bannon. They did a podcast together against these Iran strikes, and they went out of their way not to insult or malign Trump personally. And I'm starting to understand this is not a thing, a facet of current intra-Republican politics that outsiders necessarily readily understand. It's like dealing with the old czars. Trump himself is never at fault. Trump himself is never the problem. At least that's the things you have to say if you want to actually succeed in changing Trump's mind so he does the things you want. All right? Like, we didn't elect cadre last year and in November, and we didn't think we were electing cadre. We thought we were electing what the communists used to call a useful idiot, or what I would call a hackable algorithm, because of the narcissism. Like, we know how it's easy to predict how he will respond to things if we do different things. So we can change our reactions to get more of the responses out of the political system that we would like to see and less of the responses that we would not like to see. However, and the dude has, some general impulses that align with ours. Like, he's generally inclined towards peace and isolationism. But he does have some attachments that are unfortunate, and I always looked with unease at like how much money he was given by Miriam Adelson. The Israeli factions are more structurally embedded on the right than they are on the left, although the left is the institutional left is terrified of crossing them. But because of that, like, he was always, and I think also because of Jared Kushner's, I think his wife is Israeli, or at least Jewish or something, but a Zionist in any case, that, like, he was always a lot friendlier with the Zionists. I mean, like, in his first term, his Zionism was entirely performative. He moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. Ooh, like, if that's your big strike for Zionism, yeah, whatever, I'll take 1,000 such blows rather than a single day of what they've done to Gaza. He seemed to be mostly performative, again, like, saying all the most horrible things, but then, like, Steve Witkoff gets in there and does some real anti-imperialism, at least as much as possible under the circumstances. And it looks like there is a lot going on behind the scenes. Because, like, okay, Trump can get away with saying all kinds of stuff because nobody expects him to say anything rational. Even half his voters don't. But, like, the man isn't an idiot. Like, understands how his statements are taken, and it may in fact be that, as the Israelis claimed, that the anti-imperialists got played, that, like, Trump was negotiating with the Iranians in secret bad faith so that the Iranians could be fooled and deceived by the strikes. But then, so much just doesn't add up about the strikes. And it doesn't make sense unless you see it in the broader context. And I guess this is my take on all of it. The strikes are performative accessorship. Trump seems to be like, in his negotiations with the Israelis, he has to give them more and more and more. So he keeps finding stuff that doesn't really help to give them. He, was, fine with, the attempt at censorship, but I'm sure he knew it would fail. You can't pass censorship laws protecting a foreign country in the country that invented the concept of free speech. That's just not how that works. Not how that is going to work. It's going to get slapped down by public opinion if it, and if it even makes it to the courts will slap it down, even if it's like an entirely Republican, court. So, he gave them that performative little piece. He gave them all kinds of, performative bills that passed Congress, stating, what Congress would like to see, and just rhetorical support for the, Israeli government. And, that's cringe, but people are going to die of bullets a lot faster than they die of cringe. And it did look like Trump was the Trump administration was working as hard as it could to get the Israelis to back down from killing people with bullets. And by rolling out the Zionist cringe. What about these strikes? Well, Trump is he bombs Iran in what is a rare outbreak of American imperialist wisdom. The American imperialist military did not see fit to entrust the Israeli government with B-2 bombers. Those are the stealth bombers. And these 30,000 pound mother of all bomb, Moab bunker buster bombs. In theory, to destroy the complex at Fordo, you'd have to drop a series of these bombs, one blows up and then this time so that the next one comes in and blows up the ground beneath that, and that's really the only way you can blow up a facility tunneled so deep. And they were gonna aim for ventilation shafts, this was the Death Star or something. Which is the left aren't the only ones that have a cringe over-reliance on pop culture metaphors in their politics. The right does it too. Because, the bombing of Fordo was, explained as basically, the plot of the original Star Wars movie. Just bomb the just fire a missile down at the exhaust ports, you guys. That'll blow up the Death Star. Use the Force. It'd be funny if it wasn't so terrible. But anyway, so you got these bombings of Fordo, and they seem to have just destroyed or messed up the entrance and exits. Didn't really destroy anything down deep, because Star Wars was a fun little movie, but it's not reality. And however, Trump is going around saying that it's what a success. We might not even need a deal with them now, because they're we just bombed their uranium enrichment program back to the Stone Age. The actions the Israelis took did a lot more to set the Iranians back. Assassinating nuclear scientists is always that's a critical pressure point. Once they decide these people need to work for their nuclear program, now they should just have them go live underneath the ground in Fordo, and that'll suck for them. But and then just make sure their families are millionaires or something, to say, and that'll be their pay, because you can't have nuclear scientists walking around in broad daylight, where apparently Mossad is grown quite skilled in lurking. In Iran, The Israelis did functional Axis shit. They killed like a lot of military and civilian leaders of the Iranian government. They assassinated a lot of nuclear scientists. And America came in with our B-2s and our bunker busters, and we broke the doors in Fordo, and we described it as a great, glorious victory. And Trump is now, like, arguing about the size of, his inauguration crowd mode about this. Like, anyone that disputes that it's, great victory, he's arguing with. Like, there was an intelligence assessment that came out that revealed what was patently obvious to anyone paying attention, that like because the Iranians had so much heads up that we were might be doing this, they moved all of their uranium out of Fordo to an undisclosed location, and so we probably didn't get anything. But yeah, like don't say that out loud apparently, because like Trump's also been snippy with Tulsi about like her intelligence assessment 3 months ago, saying that the Iranians weren't close to a bomb. So like, let's see what actually happened here. They broke some stuff in Fordo that is easily fixed. No one got hurt in the American part of the bombings. And the Iranian retaliation was they sent the same number of missiles as we had dropped bunker busters on like a base in Qatar, I want to say, or maybe it was like the Emirates, I don't remember. Anyway, but they gave us notice, and like so it was just like this little puppet show of a war, this the American-Iranian section of the 12-day war. Like, we didn't really hurt them and they didn't really hurt us, but it's like, so it's part of it, I think, is coalitional politics. There are enough Fox News boomers and dyed-in-the-wool neocons that are part of the MAGA coalition that, Trump does have to do crap like this sometimes to satisfy them. But there's the theoretical, like, the intellectual wing of MAGA is anti-war, staunchly anti-war, to its bones anti-war. And, like, Trump has to balance them both. Like, not just them, but like also all the young Republicans, like, are majority anti-imperialist. So like Trump is a transitional figure between those two wings, as one takes over the party from the other, and he has to balance them both because he needs every single vote, or his coalition does rather, and so he did performative accesship, and that's like the traditional Republican way to do that. Instead of a dog whistle, like, yeah, I believe in law and order, whatever. He did like the foreign policy equivalent of dog whistling. He dropped a lot of big bombs that made a big show and like showed how cool and tough he is, and that's the fodder for the kids back home, or rather the boomers back home generally, who want to see us fighting them Iraqians. They don't even know what country they're bombing. They hate them all. All the Muslims, and those idiots need to see those pictures for coalitional purposes, while the anti-imperialist part of MAGA, which is more likely to, actually read books and do critical thinking, can see that, well, not only did the Iranian government get, have basically nothing happen to them because of our actions, but now they are, like, bound and determined to get nukes, or they'd have to be. They'd be fools not to be, because, like, we've shown how unreliable in principle we are, while Trump and Iran are doing these back channel discussions to make sure that no one actually gets hurt by it, our war here. It's like we're stage managing our hostilities with Iran, and nothing bad happened. But also, Trump ruled out for his stupid, silly reasons that are presented for coalitional purposes, I'm sure, but still makes sense from a realpolitik perspective. he basically ruled out any further negotiations with Iran, which basically is as close as an American real politician can get to telling an Iranian real politician, sprint for the bomb. Like, Israel keeps talking about the Libya solution, and Gaddafi was sodomized to death on national television. All right, that's what the Libyan solution is like that. Ayatollah Khomeini it gets to be next. That's not a solution anyone would want to live with. That's like making a desert and calling it peace. Is what the Libya solution is. What's kind of astonished me this entire conflict is just how passive Iran's been. It's also dawned on me how surprisingly tough the Israelis have been. Like, their little intelligence tricks with the pagers and stuff. Like, Mossad going around assassinating people in Tehran. Like, they are more effective than I would have ever expected them to be. Israel starts wars with 4 different countries and seems to be winning them handily, each one. What's Iran doing wrong? Were they just in such a bad position that they, were never going to be able to win? Like, they have a lot more people than Israel. It doesn't seem like that should be the case. I still think, like, my analysis about, like, the ultra-radicalism that Shiite ideology encourages naturally, I think that's ultimately got to be the reason why they were so brittle. And so what I hope that happens here is that the Revolutionary Guard actually takes more power and gives more of a backbone to the regime. What they, like, instead of, like, just, like, paying for proxies to do terrorism near Israel and towards Israel, they should have been, like, getting, because they're not in, like, the guerrilla warfare stage of this, or at least, like, Iran itself isn't. Iran, like, had a decent missile program, and that was able to break the Iron Dome in many instances. What if they'd put more effort towards their missiles? That seems to have been a lot more effective than all the money they gave to Hezbollah and Hamas. And then, like, I mean, like, when Benjamin Netanyahu is working to put an organization into power in Palestine, and you are supporting that organization, like, because, I mean, basically at this point, Hamas is lost so completely that they're willing to surrender government in Gaza for peace. And the Israelis are still like, nah, I think we'll just keep bombing you. Like, any notion that Hamas won this war is, like, I mean, I'm just talking from, like, not in the sense of, like, a moral victory or whatever. I mean, we can be liberals and have all the moral victories we want, but, like, the people of Gaza far too many of them have died, and Israel can keep killing them at will, and Hamas can't do a whole lot to stop it. This whole war started because Hamas, as an Iranian proxy, wanted to improve Iran's political position by stopping the Abraham Accords. So they started what could literally be described as terrorism on October 7th, and then that gave Benjamin Netanyahu's fascist government all the justification they needed to just start genociding people. It was like, like, Netanyahu is fascist, but he's a clever fascist, and he put Hamas in power so that he could do stuff like this and be like, we've got no partner for peace because they're literally terrorists. And I mean, he's got no partner for peace because he killed all the potential partners for peace, that the moderates that would have been willing to compromise. And so, it's a self-defeating argument, but he can still make it because most people aren't going to look that close. Iran needs the theological component of its government toned down, because they seem to be more like their attachment to ultra-radicalism is allowing the West and its Zionist allies to paint them as far worse than they are, while at the same time seems to be holding them back. Like, there was a fatwa from one of the Ayatollahs declaring nuclear weapons haram, forbidden by Islam. And it's like, Iran wouldn't be going through this right now if that fatwa did not exist. It hadn't been put out a decade or two ago. Because if that fatwa did not exist, they would have nuclear weapons now, and America would be like, well, we can't mess with them. They've got nukes. And so would Israel, actually. So it's just too idealistic, this Shiite theocracy. It is weakening Iran at a moment where it could prevail, if not for ideology. They give too much in some places, and then they fight too hard in other places. If the Revolutionary Guards took more power in Iran, that would probably be for the best, because at least as soldiers, as like a military force, they have some kind of interaction with reality that will, force them towards realpolitik and away from more theologically motivated ultra-radicalism. But also, like, since they're a Revolutionary Guard, they will still be applying these realpolitik concepts to the anti-imperialist cause, rather than, like, because you could still be realpolitik in Iran and be like, and that's why we should capitulate to America and the West and welcome the Shah back with open arms. And, like, yeah, you could make that argument. Like, Iran would probably be doing a lot better tomorrow if they did that. But the anti-imperialist cause as a whole would be doing worse. It's like this prisoner's dilemma sort of game theory problem. And Iran itself would be doing worse in the long run than if they put up an effective resistance now. But in the short run, yes, like, the sanctions would be lifted, and, like, oh, we welcome the Shah back, and that sucks, but, like, no sanctions, and our economy is growing, and never mind the secret police coming back, the Savak. Don't worry about that. They're only going for the bad people, and the bad people. Like I've said from the beginning, you have to look at what Trump does. Well, what any politician. Look at what they do, not what they say. But especially Trump. Look at the effects of Trump, not the rhetoric of Trump. And the effects of Trump are Iran is going to be a lot more revolutionary now. It's definitely sprinting towards a nuke. They would be, if they don't sprint towards a nuke at this point, like, they frankly just deserve Zion to be, like, meddled with at will by Zionists and imperialists. Like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. They have a very clear choice, and the Iranian political establishment cannot put this choice off any longer. It has to sprint for a nuke. And so Trump has forced the anti-imperialists to become more effectively radical. He never got involved with any of the other strikes, but he has been moderating Israel's influence. Like, it's savagery, like, he's been imposing some ceasefires here and there. He imposed one on, like, between Israel and Iran that ended this 12-day war. He imposed one, basically before he even became president, on Gaza, and yeah, it broke down, but there were several weeks there where, like, people were able to, like, get some food and not have to worry so much about, the bombing. And that was worth doing. I think he even mediated a ceasefire with Hezbollah and Israel. So, like, none of this stuff would be happening with President Kamala, all right? Like, let's not kid ourselves about that. President Kamala would not have done any of those things, but would have basically helped Israel up the escalation ladder at every point. Within every new nation. It's kind of funny because in a way what Trump is doing is Biden's strategy with the quote-unquote bear hug, except that Trump's bear hug actually does seem to be bearing some results. And it's this weird form of coalitional negotiation between, like, how do you get neocons, or like neocon Fox News boomers and anti-imperialists on the same page? It's basically impossible, and except it's not, and this is how you do it. And it's like, my initial reaction when I heard about it was like, God damn it. Like, I do not support this at all, and I still don't support the bombings, but like, I don't support any kind of imperialist action Trump takes. Like, however, I have learned to hold judgment for a little bit, because a lot of times it ends up just being performative accessorship, like the invasion of Venezuela, which was like a couple mercenaries that got captured by the Venezuelan Coast Guard at the same time as there was supposed to be a military coup that, like, the coup plotters, just, if they were even coup plotters in the first place, just abandoned, and like Mike Pompeo was left to like be like saying things in public, exposing them, and it was just such a cluster. So, like, no, I don't support imperialism, but like, and not even when Trump does it, but it looks to be performative imperialism, like performative accessorship. Like, it doesn't seem to have had any real effect. And I guess, if we got to do imperialism, I want to do the kind of imperialism that doesn't hurt anybody. If we got to do imperialism, it's got to be the sort of imperialism where, like, Caligula orders the Roman legions down to the sea and declares war on Poseidon, and just has the legionaries just whack the waves with their swords, declares victory, and they all go home for dinner. If we got to have imperialism, that's the kind of imperialism I want, is the kind that does nothing and hurts nobody. Anyway, one other point I wanted to make is that these bombings, these performative, useless bombings that hurt nobody and did nothing, probably bought Trump the political capital necessary to end the Israeli strikes on Iran, which were hurting people and pushing back the Iranian nuclear program. So, maybe Laura Loomer was right. Maybe we should have just trusted Trump all along. And, like, yeah, there's maybe something to be said for that. Maybe, that was the right, move. That was the correct line. Was, Laura Loomer's of all people's. And it's crazy world if that's the case, but who knows? But all of this is to say, if you look at it deeply, it's not as bad as it seems, and Iran's going to have, lessons learned from this conflict. They're going to pursue a nuclear program, which is going to be the only thing that will truly bring peace to the Middle East. Imagine if Iran could protect itself with, like, nuclear weapons instead of, like, the threat of terrorism. They would be a lot safer. Everyone in the Middle East would be a lot safer. Because, if one nation threatens another with terroristic actions, all the others are going to just, do the same thing in response. And, then everyone's eating where someone else shits. And it's just a bad thing. Terrorism, Lenin called it ultra-radical, and he was correct. It's not a good strategy. So Iran needs nuclear weapons. And that will bring peace to the Middle East. And Trump's actions have put them on the course to that without substantially harming them in any way, and also brokering a a ceasefire to a conflict which was hurting them. So I don't regret my vote for Trump. It was the right move. It was absolutely the right move. That's why you kind of just got to give these things a couple minutes before you weigh in with the hot take. The name of this channel notwithstanding. Anyway, now you know. And knowing is half the battle.
Hot Take Express.